All right, man. Preseason game number 2. Houston, Texas versus the Miami Dolphins. And hey, it was an L this week, 28-3. It's okay. It's okay. This is what preseason is for, man. So let's cover a few topics real quick. Let's see. We're gonna cover how did CJ look, how was the defense, what surprises did we see, and basically what do we have to look forward to. So let's get right into it, man. First and foremost, CJ Stroud looked a lot better this week than he did last week. It's not that he looked bad last week. It's just that there wasn't a big enough sample size for what it is that he was out there to perform and do. But this week, he performed a lot better. Of course, no interceptions. Of course, that's the big highlight. You won't see him on ESPN for that. But he also went 7 of 12 for 60 yards, so that was a good performance. He played the first half. There wasn't a whole lot that he did as far as things to wow you, aside from the fact that he was able to scramble out of the pocket once on a couple plays where they had a free run on the cornerback blitz or whatnot that they had going on. The pocket was pretty clean for most of the day. He did have a couple backfield pressures, but most of those backfield pressures affected the running back and running backs in the running game essentially. But CJ did look pretty clean, save for the fact that he had a delay of game, and maybe one or two times where his decision making was just a little bit slower than what it needed to be. But overall, CJ had a pretty good performance. Stuff that he can definitely build on moving forward to next week. But again, don't let the score fool you. I mean, the score kind of got out of hand as the game went on. It was pretty much 7-3 in the time that CJ was in the game. Again, he played the first half. But those were pretty much the highlights. No real low lights for CJ today, so he lives to survive for another day. Let's get into it with this defense. The defense for the last few weeks has been really a strong point for the Texans, and this has been something that even in training camp you could definitely see where the defense has been standing out and shining. Now, that said, the defense overall took an L today on an overall standpoint. Now, first play of the game, Tua Tagovailoa or whatever his name is. You all know what I'm saying. Tua threw an interception on his first play to Denzel Perryman, man. So that was good. The play got run back to roughly about the 5-10 yard line. And the Texans weren't able to convert and get that in, which was unfortunate. But they did come back later on the second drive and get a field goal, so they got their 3 points in the game right there. But man, it was tough sledding after a while, man. Once the starters went out, it was tough sledding. Now in the forefront, we had when the starters were in, we had our boy Will Anderson and Jonathan Grenard. They were balling out, man. They were putting pressure in the backfield. They were doing their thing, man. Hassan Ridgeway was on the second team, I believe, and he was performing well. He had a couple good pressures. I think he got a sack, or was close to getting a sack in the collective with the second unit. But overall, man, the defense got exposed for a lack of ability to stop the run. And now most of this was on the second half of the game. So the game kind of got away in the second half. So the second and third stringers essentially took a big beating when it came to stopping the run. But there was still some big plays that were taken in the first half with the run game. So I think that kind of maybe exposed the little things. But overall, man, the continuity of the defense looked pretty solid. I know that kind of is like an oxymoron for me to say, man, that, on one hand, they kind of got beat up in the run game, but overall, the continuity was pretty solid. But let's just be real. There wasn't a whole lot of pass completions that were, big game changes. Big game breakers or whatever. You didn't see the likes of, I don't even recall seeing Weddle catch a ball. I know Tyreek Hill got in there and caught something, but you didn't see the standard offense for what you see with Miami all the time. And again, it's preseason, so maybe that's not something to be expected. But there were way too many long drives. Tua had, I think, one drive that was like 12 plays. The backup quarterback, Skylar Thompson, man, he performed very well for Miami. And I mean, it seemed like once that first drive and that first interception happened, it seemed like every drive from that point forward was a long, double-digit drive that they just kept pushing it down the field and pushing it down the field. Again, it wasn't a whole lot of passing that was the executioner for the Texans, but it was mostly just the run game. So, looking forward, I think that that's something that they can make an adjustment to. I think one of the big things for the defense that I saw was that when they did get their hands on the player that they need to tackle, they were pretty solid in making sure that there wasn't any additional yardage beyond that tackle. Whoever the first person was to hit him was usually the first person to get him down. So I thought that was very promising moving forward. So definitely that they have some things to clean up. They got some positions to kind of button down. But I think that's to be expected, to be honest with you. Where we're at right now, this is only the second preseason game. Obviously, we didn't perform well on a lot of things last week. It's kind of one of these weird things, man, where you had not necessarily poor quarterback play last week, but you didn't have the greatest quarterback play last week, yet we won. And this week we didn't have bad quarterback play, but you didn't have a lot of the things that were attributes to contributing to the attributes of us winning the game. And so it's just one of those things that, football is kind of weird like that sometimes. Of course, we didn't see Tank Dell today. He warmed up, but then ultimately when the game started, he was in T-shirt and sweatpants or whatever. That kind of maybe indicates a couple of things. D'Amico said that he had a little back tightness or whatever. I'll be honest with you. I believe that he's probably just wide receiver number one. I think that pretty much is an indicator for me that they've seen enough, and they don't want to risk having him getting injured or, tweaking something out there on the field or whatever. He's that vital to the team that they definitely want to keep him on bubble wrap right now. And they'll probably bring him out again next week for a couple plays just to kind of get him up to speed, just so he can keep his conditioning. But ultimately, we're ready to go with him, and we'll bring him out for week 1 against the Ravens. Secondly, man, a lot of these guys that we have need to step it up a bit. I saw something that looked very familiar, and I know that this is maybe the rehab side of me as a fan, but Dalton Schultz, we had on our first drive after the interception, 4th down play. I thought it was very important that D'Amico, on a change of possession, he went aggressive, and he definitely went for that 4th down play so that they could try to get a touchdown. And so Dalton Schultz, I believe the distance was maybe about 12 yards. Dalton Schultz ran what appeared to be like a 6-yard out route, and he was on the far left side to the post. And so on that type of play, you can't take, it's a 4th and goal. You can't take a short route and just try to commit to try to get it in with 5 yards to go. So Dalton ran the wrong route, in my opinion. I think he should have run his route a little deeper. Should have run it with the angle towards the goal post. Damn it, I'm forgetting what the damn, but you know what I'm saying, to the corner of the end zone, to the pylon. Thank you. Old man syndrome. But he should have run his route to the pylon and given CJ a better angle to try to get it with some depth into the corner of the end zone. He cut his route short and he cut his angle short. And so when CJ launched the ball, it went over his head by maybe about 5 yards. So, maybe some people, I heard some people at the bar that I was at saying that, CJ overthrew him. I contend that, Dalton just ran the wrong route per the situation, but you got to be in the mind frame of situational football. Now, I used to see this back in the day when we had Kubiak, and I know we saw this when Bill O'Brien was over the tenure. We've even seen it with the last 2 head coaches. It's just certain times that you have a situational play, the team has to be on board with everything that's going on. You got to be in sequence with what's going on. And the worst thing that I can remember is that we would have, and this is, again, historically, we would have a 4th and short, maybe a 4th and 4, a 4th and 5, and the receiver would run a route that there's, 2 or 3 yards short of where they need to get to. And so when it's you might be a 3rd and short even, but you have your quarterback is under pressure, he's under duress, he's going to hit his hot route, and then boom, that guy is just too short to even get to the first down marker. Those are problematic when it comes to the game plan as far as trying to extend drives. And we see it too many times where it works against us when other teams do it, and it doesn't work in our favor when we're trying to, implement that as part of our game plan. But these are things that, if you've seen football long enough, if you played football long enough, or whatever, whatever the situation is, that there are certain things that are just necessary for the flow of the game to continue moving forward. And so I just think that was one thing that, as a guy that, and Dalton Schultz seems to be a pretty cerebral guy. He can make mistakes, of course, but this is something that he definitely made a mistake on the first drive, and it was just kind of highlighted. Now, there were many mistakes. That was just one of them. There was a delay of game that, caused the Texans to have to move back 5 yards in advance of that play. That was a problem as well, but that was more on the coaching staff for not calling the timeout, not being ready to remove that responsibility for C.J. Stroud, and it's of course on C.J. Stroud because he has to be aware of the play clock in order for him to do what needs to be done. Overall, I didn't see a whole lot of penalties for the Texans, which was pretty much a good thing. It was a fairly clean game when it came to those type of things, but there's definitely some things that still need to be cleaned up with the O-line. But again, the pressure was pretty light today. They kept the pocket clean. But there's just some the running game couldn't get going the way that they wanted to, so it was kind of like the Dolphins kind of played pity pat with them a little bit. They made sure that they didn't get anything out of pocket, and so they did more of a successful job of bending and not breaking than the Texans did themselves. But Texans didn't do themselves, a whole lot of favors when it came to some of those drives that they had anyway. Not going to cover too much of the second half because the second half isn't so much important outside of the fact of Davis Mills. Davis Mills went, I think he went 10 of 22, 94 yards. Again, offense didn't put up a spectacular day. But it was just one of those days. The running game, these guys didn't get much done at all. I mean, Damian Pierce, 15 yards on 6 carries. Mike Boone, 12 yards on 5 carries. Devin Singletary, 6 yards on 2 carries. So this is what I said when it comes to the O-line. They weren't really manhandling the defensive line like they were supposed to, and then the holes weren't open. The pressure was in the face of the running backs by the time they hit the line. And so that was a bit of a problem. So I think these things kind of exposed something for the Texans where we had what we felt was one of the stronger units in the running back squad. And definitely we thought one of the stronger units was going to be the O-line to start training camp. We thought that the O-line was a significantly stronger unit than what they've turned out to be. But of course, injuries have played a huge part in that. We've had more than a few guys that have gone down on the O-line. So the O-line was a strength that's turned into a weakness. The wide receiver room was what we thought was a weakness that's actually somewhat kind of turned into a strength. But you take Dale out of the equation, I don't know. The breakaway speed of some of these guys has not shown itself. The route running has definitely been there. Nico Collins is definitely looking like he's the solid number 1 or number 2 option, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it. Robert Woods is, he's going to be in the slant. In the slot position. But I see it literally. I see it clear as day that it's Nico Collins, it's Robert Woods, and it's Tank Dell, and I don't see a real fair competition for anybody else below them. Of course, they're going to get Hutchinson in, and they're going to get Sims in. I think Sims will make the team. Trying to think who else is going to possibly make the team. Noah Brown will be here. That's 6. So I think that's probably the 6 that we'll roll with, to be honest with you. Outside of that, Dalton Schultz, Tegan Quintariano, and I think those are probably the main guys at tight end that are going to get it done, depending on Tegan's health. But yeah, offense looks like they got some things to work on and definitely improve on, and I think they'll get those things done for the next game. I definitely look forward to that. The only surprise that I saw this game again was just the fact that Tank Dell didn't play. But I don't really think that that's a significant surprise overall. Tank, he's already shown his wares. Just keep him on the bubble wrap, man. It's like, the injuries have been flowing, man. I actually got settled once I got home. It was, hot ass day in Houston, man. So, I got settled and I started watching some of the other games before I decided I'd shoot my video. Probably should have shot my video first, but hey, it is what it is, man. I want to kind of relax for a little bit. I've been out all day. But yeah, man, like that's where we're at, man. So I'll have some more commentary as I break things down, digest things, and maybe sleep on it a little bit, and see if tomorrow brings a better day. As you can kind of see, my energy is a little low right now, but I think I'll be better tomorrow, man. It's always like this when you take a little bit of an L, man. But I'm gonna have a little nightcap, and then we'll be back tomorrow, man, for the recap. So till then, man, Texas fan of rehab. I'm out.